Okay, I said, I think in the morning session that, but I want to say more about this now, that we often focus on our weaknesses rather than our strengths, right? As a congregation now I'm talking about, not necessarily as people, although that's true also for individuals. But experts say that a much better strategy is to focus on strengths, map what those strengths are. This is sometimes called asset mapping, and then work from those as your foundation, rather than trying to fill in the gaps. Just work at expanding the strengths. So things we could think about with that are what is the congregation known for in the community? If somebody, you ran into somebody and they said, I go to Pisgah Lutheran, what would that person think of automatically? That kind of thing. So what are you known for in the community, and how can you build on that strength? How can you expand it? How can you make it even better known? Those kinds of things. Or another way of thinking about that is, what do you do well? What do you do well? So to operate from a sense of strength rather than a sense of weakness. And one way to do that is to reframe what are normally negative statements into positive statements. We did this at St. John's when I was there, and it took a long time, I'll be honest with you. It took a long time, but we no longer allowed committees to write their goals. First of all, committees should have goals. You know that, right? Okay. Yep.
Yes.
Go like this if you agree with me. Yes. Committees should have goals that they're working toward. We did ours 18 months out. But we no longer allowed committees to have any kind of negative statements for their goals. I know that sounds stupid to me, to you, but, so for instance, the Christian Ed committee would say things like, we need more children in Sunday school. Well, that's actually a negative statement, isn't it? Because you're saying we don't have enough children in Sunday school. So we worked with the committees to try to get them to formulate a positive statement about why we need children in Sunday school. Not, we need more children because we don't have enough now, but why are we even doing Sunday school in the first place? To sort of take it back a level and say, Sunday school provides a faith formation for the rest of a person's life. Therefore, our committee has as a goal to provide Sunday school for age, 3 through whatever. But so to start from a position of, it may not sound like strength, but a position of why are we doing this in a positive way and not focused on the numbers. Yeah, is any of this making sense? Youth have a desire to dig into their faith for themselves. Therefore, we will provide confirmation resources and programming. It's because therefore is really what it is, right? Which we ought to be really familiar with as Lutherans especially, right? Because Christian Ed forms the foundation of a child's life. Therefore, we will provide Christian Ed for children. I'm picking on Christian Ed, but you can do this with any committee. Because X, then we will do Y. And it just took a long time, takes a long time for people to kind of grasp that and make the change. But it really seemed to work. It sort of turned the tables on committees from just, we're doing the same thing we did last year, to here's why we're doing it. And we might want to try something different as we're trying to accomplish the because. Do you see what I mean? The therefore can be different once you've established what the because is. Is any of this making any sense? Yeah. So we don't have enough young families, right? How many of you have ever heard that before? We don't have enough young families. What's the positive way of saying that? Huh?
We're looking for more.
No, that's not positive. Or we minister to older adults, right? I mean, maybe that's our ministry, to older adults. Why do we have to have young families? We are one part of God's kingdom in one place. We don't have to, each congregation does not have to be all things to all people, right? Let somebody else have the young families if that's what they do well. If what you do well is minister to older adults, then that's what you do well.
Or sometimes when people are saying we want more young families, it's so that we can prop up, it's kind of a self-serving desire, whereas if you can frame it in terms of we want to offer our gifts and our skills and our mentoring to younger people, then you're actually attracting people because you're offering something.
Yes, because if you're clear about what the mission is,
Right.
people will be interested in that, right? I think. I mean,
Right.
again, I'm the eternal optimist, but I think that's true.
I think we get into the business of, well, it's a church, so it has to have this. I've got a buddy whose first call was at a church in Spring Hill, Florida, which is a notorious retirement community. And he was brought there as an associate to lead their youth ministry. They had no youth, nor potential of getting any youth. But it was a church, so they felt like, well, we got to have a youth ministry. And that wasn't their mission.
And even if it's to perpetuate, which is what Nathan is saying, in that situation, it perpetuates by having other retirees come in, right? They don't have to be young. They're going to come in as retirees. So that's what we need to be focused on and recognize who we are and what our mission is. I'm back to the clarity of the mission. Yeah, somebody over here wanted to say something. Jim?
Just as a way of phrasing this, I'd like to have more children because I love kids and working with. But I could say our mission is that we begin from birth and we shape and mold children and youth for a lifetime of worship and service, and would like to offer that to our community.
Yeah, good. When we worked through this with the committees, again, it took a long time, but we started with, we didn't call it this, but basically a because statement. I forget what, we called that an observation. An observation is the because statement. Because faith formation shapes people for the rest of their lives, right? That was our observation. Faith formation shapes individuals their entire life. That's an observation. Then we had the so-called therefore, which was our goal. Therefore, we will provide Christian education for all ages, right? That's the therefore. And then the actual strategies we called commitments. These are our commitments then. We'll offer Sunday school, we'll offer VBS, we'll offer Wednesday, whatever. I mean, then you get into the actual details of what you're doing. Which also allows you to let things die a natural death. Some things just need to go away. A gracious way of doing that is to let it go on sabbatical. Right? Just let that program go on sabbatical for a while. Maybe it'll come back, refreshed, renewed. Maybe it won't. But some things just need to die so that other new things can come to birth, right? We of all people should understand that there's life after death.
Resurrection only happens to dead people.
Yeah, right. How about, we don't have enough people in worship. We only have 30 people at worship, and we have a building that holds 500. We have extra space in the sanctuary. I mean, really, we have extra space in the sanctuary. So what can we do to leverage that strength and not see it as we have to fill it up, but how can we leverage this extra space we have for the community?
This church is equipped to hold more people than are regularly coming to worship. Therefore, we have the ability to help these few people to grow exponentially.
Or or to let somebody else use the space, right?
Or
And
you-
for our people to go to the fellowship hall, or, I mean, there's all kinds
Yeah,
of
free space around
opportunities.
it. Mhm.
Yeah. Somebody, okay?
What I learned about church growth is some plant, we sow, but God gives the increase. Why do we beat ourselves up because there's only 30? If we do what he said, some sow, some plant, some water, some visit, some do this, some do that. And when we do that, it's up to God to give the increase. That's not our responsibility about the increase.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying is, and trying to say, we don't have to be all things to all people. And when we're clear about what the mission is of St. Swithin's by the Sea, then St. Swithin's doesn't have to worry about being St. John's of the megachurch, right? I mean, St. Swithin's can be St. Swithin's, and that's a part of the kingdom as well. And to try to get at that core sense of who we are and why are we participating in God's mission by looking first at our strengths and not as our weaknesses. That's what I'm trying to say in this brief 10 minutes.
It sounds to me like most of these negative statements are because people's understanding of mission and purpose is more to save the institutional church rather than to be the church.
Uh-huh.
And that's the challenge, is to get longtime church members to care more about being the church rather than saving their institutional church where they have all these emotional ties.
Exactly, and we're all subject to that. I mean, we all, right, look to the past with varying tints of rose in our glasses, right? And it's a challenge to look back and think, well, the Sunday schools used to be running over. I heard that at St. John's, I can't tell you how many times. Some of you know St. John's in Salisbury, right? The mother church of North Carolina. You know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds in the Sunday school. Well, guess what? There aren't hundreds in the Sunday school anymore. Now, you can either sit there and mourn about it, or we can, you know, move to the next paradigm. So, yeah, okay. Now I want us to think about what prevents healthy stewardship. I know we're going to have a long list of these. What prevents healthy stewardship? When you only make it about money, she's saying. So it needs to be more holistic, more inclusive. Okay? What else?
Let someone else do it.
Who said that?
Me.
I thought it was the voice of God.
Not today.
Okay. Say more. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think, you know, in every church committee, every congregation, a lot of times we find out that a few do a lot. And sometimes that may be that few's fault, or our fault, for not reaching out and inviting new people, not being afraid to take on new ideas, to stimulate committees and growth.
People have a kind of an assurance that this will happen whether I participate or not, because it
Right,
always
right.
has.
Somebody makes it happen.
Somebody will make it happen.
And we just need to reach out to more somebodies.
Or we need to let it not happen.
Or let
Right?
it
There's
not
another
happen.
teaching tool.
Right.
Let it not happen and see what, right? Then maybe somebody will step up and say, wait, I really wanted VBS this summer. Well then, you need to help make it happen, right? Yeah, okay, what else?
Unhealthy stewardship.
Unhealthy stewardship presents healthy stewardship. Prevents healthy,
Well, and what I
in
mean.
what sense?
What I mean by that is, if the organization is not being a good steward,
Oh, okay.
then it will inhibit other stewardship. In the same sense, my past poor stewardship may prevent me from being a good steward now. If I have created mountains of debt for myself, now I come to a stewardship symposium, I'm like, now I really want to give to Jesus, but the bill collectors keep calling me.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So,
Good, okay. So the past, we have to figure a way out of that, right, to move to a new future. You can't keep just repeating what's happened in the past if we want to change. Okay?
Could you remind everyone to speak in the microphone, because they can't hear up here.
Yes.
We didn't hear what he just said.
He said his past poor stewardship may prevent him, even though he may want to be a good steward now, because maybe he accumulated piles of debt being a poor steward, and now he can't, you know, he has to work his way out of that before he can begin to take on a new role as a steward. That's
And also poor stewardship of the congregation.
poor stewardship of the institution. The institution itself needs to model good stewardship, right? Which is a whole nother level of conversation, right? What else prevents healthy stewardship? Yeah.
When the mission becomes stale or overdone.
Good, okay. When the mission is stale, people feel like we've already accomplished that. We're just in maintenance mode, right? There's no excitement in the air. Okay?
I think fear also, fear.
Fear of what?
Fear of making the ask of people.
From the leadership, you
From a
mean?
leadership
Uh-huh.
perspective, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we fear rejection or people saying no.
Okay, so we don't even want to talk about it to begin with, because we're afraid people are going to say no to, not going to,
Yeah.
right.
Fear of taking risk.
Yeah, fear of taking risk. I think we're all guilty of that, right?
A sense of scarcity.
Yes. Who said that? Oh, good, good, yeah, a sense of scarcity. God operates out of a sense of abundance, right? But our initial human action or attitude toward anything is scarcity. We can't help ourselves, we just do. We just immediately think, am I gonna get my fair share? Whatever it is. Has he got more than I've got, right? I mean, it's our kind of initial attitude, but God operates out of a sense of abundance. And so to try to live into that as stewards of God's abundance, to try to get out of this attitude of scarcity that we have. I could do a whole session on this, but it's true. In the Bible, when, especially in Genesis, when problems arise and the people try to solve the problem themselves, it's a disaster. It's a disaster, right? But when God steps in to solve the problem, it's not that problems won't arise, they will. But when God steps in to solve it, that's when things move forward. It's an interesting study. Okay, that was an aside. You don't have to pay extra for that. That came with your fee.
I was going to say, excuse me, I was going to say, I think that if you want to start out and have a healthy ministry or stewardship, try not to do what everybody else is doing. If you want to have an adult day program, for example, in your neighborhood, there may be 10 other churches in a 5-mile radius doing the same thing, and there are only so many adults to go around. It's not going to help.
Yeah, good. That's a great reminder. So do our research, right, about what the community needs. When I was at St. John's, somebody left a gift through a will through several other people. It was very complicated. But anyway, we did a lot of research and found out that there was no daycare in Salisbury that accepted infants 0 through 3. All the daycares started at age 3. So there was a huge need in the community for this 0 to 3 age. And we were already running a 4- and 5-year-old kindergarten. That was probably the thing we were most known for, besides the sanctuary and the beauty of the sanctuary. But this pre-K kindergarten was the main thing that people knew about St. John's. So it was a natural progression to build on that strength. Everybody knows St. John's has this 4- and 5-year-old. Well, now we have 0 to 3, right? To build, that's what I mean by building on your strength, and the community needed it. I mean, it was immediately subscribed when the building went up. So, yeah, good, thanks. Other things that prevent us from healthy stewardship.
A response of anxiety and obligation instead of a response of gratefulness to God and in relationship with Jesus Christ.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of that, I'm going to blame us for that, the leadership, because we have fallen into these modes of guilting people into giving by the way we even go about preaching and teaching about stewardship. And so rather than this guilting, making people feel bad about their duty to give, right, to invite them to participate in the joy of giving. That's a whole different message than.
Sometimes it's just bad theology and bad preaching.
It is, exactly. Somebody in the back had their hand up? Yeah.
Yes, in the peanut gallery. I think one of the things that happen is when stewardship is forced, and it's forced by people in the church to have hidden agendas.
Oh. People in the church have hidden agendas?
Oh, yes.
Really?
For instance, for example, I want to be on the stewardship committee so that I can help push stewardship, because my hidden agenda is I want to help get our organ restored.
You want to help get what?
I want to help get the organ restored.
I'll get the organ restored.
Yes. So.
Yeah, the usual thing I hear along that line is, I'm the pastor, I don't want to ask people to give because they'll think I'm trying to raise my own salary. Right? There's a fine line to walk there of I'm raising money for myself as the pastor, or I'm providing ministry for this congregation. You've called me to do this work, and now you need to pay me for it, right? Yeah, good. Okay, thanks. I didn't know there were hidden agendas in the church. I've learned something today. What about that's between me and God? Yeah? That's private. You can't talk to me about money because it's private.
Yeah, God won't talk to you. He won't tell you what the person is doing.
Yeah. And I would say stewardship is personal, but it's not private. It's personal in that it has to do with me and myself, but it's not private because I'm part of the body of Christ. And we're trying to accomplish this mission. So it's not private. Yeah.
Another thing I've heard is we can't or don't know how to do that new or expanded thing. So it's easier to stay where we are in the here and now and not see the future possibility.
Exactly. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard work. And it involves taking risk as the leader, right, to even bring this stuff up, and as the people who are going to follow, right? I mean, there's risk for everybody. But the mission of God is the outcome. I mean, what could be more compelling than that?
Because we can't.
I was going to say.
We can't?
Yeah, because we can't.
Can't do some particular thing?
When I was in my first parish, it was a small rural congregation, and I would hear that a lot is, well, we can't do that, we're all on fixed incomes, we're all this, we're all that, and they would usually use one particular member as the example of the fixed income, when it turns out she was actually one of the biggest givers in the congregation. But because we can't is an excuse that I've often heard.
Yeah. And that we've used ourselves. I mean, let's put ourselves in this we category, right? These are all things that we ourselves have been guilty of as well. Yeah.
Disagreements with those that do and those that don't.
Aha. Disagreements in the church? Yeah. It's a contentious place sometimes, but we're called to lead this bunch of herd these cats as we go along, so we'll work at that. Well, so hope I've convinced you at this point that stewardship, first of all, is a broad, inclusive term. Second of all, it's connected to the mission. And thirdly, it needs to be a year-round effort on the part of the congregation. So what you're going to do this afternoon is begin to work on that in small breakout groups. By that, I mean a year-round stewardship effort. So the way we're going to do that is you have a facilitator for each group, and Jim or Ozzie or somebody's going to tell you about that in a minute. And you've got newsprint. So what you're going to do is you're going to put a you're gonna put a calendar. I think I made that too big. So you're gonna start with a calendar. Ta-da! Then you're going to overlay the liturgical calendar for those of you that are in liturgical congregations. So we have, so we have Christmas, right, in here, very small season. We have Epiphany. We have Lent. We have Easter. We have Pentecost, and we have Advent, right? You get the idea. I mean, I'm just showing you what an example might look like. Then you're going to think about secular events that happen throughout the year that people in general, who are the people in your congregations, think about. That could be opportunities for mission of some kind. So secular events like Super Bowl. School starts, right? School. Yeah, 4th of July. Graduation.
How about income tax?
Thanksgiving. Something else I was thinking of down here. Mom's Day, right? Dad's Day. Memorial Day was in here. Labor Day.
College football.
Football. Right.
I'm going to suggest one that sounds strange, but income tax. There's no reason why people can't help those like H&R Block or whatever to fill out the forms
helping
where
the
they need help.
poor or the aging, or just regular people. I do tax returns for people too because I don't know how to do them. Okay. Then you're going to think about, as the fourth layer, so you've got the regular calendar, you've got the liturgical calendar, you've got the secular calendar is what I'll call that, right? And then you've got your congregational calendar. So you've got things that are specific to your congregation. Say, give me an example.
Annual meeting.
Yeah, annual meeting, okay. I was thinking of something a little more exciting than that. Okay, VBS might be something, right? Homecoming, is that over here? Well, wherever it is, homecoming. Rally day. Yeah, rally day, school.
Anniversary.
Yeah, congregational anniversary. Right? Annual apple butter fest. They have those in Pennsylvania all over the place. Pig picking, fall festival, barbecue, golf tournaments. You get the idea. Whatever is specific to your congregation, you're going to put those on. And then your task, once you get this laid out, where you see kind of how your year unfolds, the idea is to think of themes that would be appropriate for various sections of time. They don't have to be the liturgical seasons, although that's a place to start. You know, like fitness might be January, February kind of theme, right? Because everybody's worried about that. So you're going to think about themes that could fit big areas of time. You with me? And to help you with that, in your packet is the Portico Wholeness Wheel. So you see, financial well-being is down at the bottom, but that's only one of the 6 types of well-being. So if stewardship is this expansive arrangement of the parts to benefit the whole, then stewardship ought to be thinking about things other than just financial well-being. We ought to be thinking about vocational well-being and emotional well-being and physical well-being and so forth. So these can help broaden your mind from just finances. This chart can help broaden your mind from just finances. So to think about themes, say fitness, maybe harvest would be a theme over here, abundant harvest, right? Abundance of creation kind of theme. And then if you still have time to think about what are specific activities or events that could revolve around those themes. That could be a stewardship event. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're thinking it's impossible? No, it's doable. It's doable. There are plenty of these kinds of things out there on the internet. There's some on the ELCA website. My experience is, though, if you just take something that's pre-printed and try to implement it, you won't be nearly as successful as if you actually go through the work yourself and come up with something. You'll have much more investment, and it's not just, of course, you. I'm hoping you'll take this back to the congregation and that the stewardship committee there, or whoever you have, you'll be able to explain all of this, and they'll be the ones actually filling it in and taking ownership of it. Does that make sense to you?